tips on how to get our clubs to distinguish and have championship clubs. And our presenter today is Bette McIntire, our an immediate past district governor. Bette is a collaborative leader with more than 27 years at IBM of direct employment and consulting and management experience that has resulted in optimizing processes while building high-performing, customer-focused IT operations. Bette has extensive experience in conducting workshops and executive presentations. Her engaging personality allows her to work well across groups and to build consensus across diverse groups and cultures. Bette has been an active Toastmaster since 2004 and is currently our past district governor and our District in District 53, which consists of over 3,000 members. Bette is also our direct chief ambassador for the revitalization education program that will be replacing the current educational program over the next few years. Bette applies her Toastmaster skills in her other roles as a therapeutic program director for people with Alzheimer's and as a tour director. And anyone that goes to Washington, D.C., she's giving us a free tour of Washington, D.C. Yes, at the convention in August. She conducts tours in Washington, D.C., New York, and Boston for school trips in the spring. Bette resides in Avon, Connecticut with her husband, Bruce. And she's one of my dearest friends. Please welcome Bette McIntire.
Thank you, Sharon. It's great to be here, and I'm going to assume that all of you are some type of officer. Otherwise, you are just dying for information. I look at it as if you're not an officer now, by the end of this presentation, you'll be signing up to be one. Because after all, that is where you're getting a majority of your skills. If you're looking at leadership and communication skills as the two tracks that Toastmasters is noted for, communication is obviously something where you're getting up and trying to speak and get rid of that fear, which is a universal fear. But the leadership roles that we play within the meetings in the clubs and within being an officer within your clubs, those are actually the items that build onto your leadership skills. So I highly encourage you. And this presentation, which I don't know how many people had received or bought into or heard of Lance. How many people have heard of Lance Miller? Not a lot, because only 1% of our district ever really goes to the conferences. I have no idea why, because it's such a wonderful event. But he did present both his leadership and his How to Build a Championship Club at our last conference. So this actually goes through the entire CD, and he conducted an interview. So he kind of jumped around, so I took it and compiled it into the three components that he felt builds a championship club. So that's what we're going to take you through today. This is going to be interactive, because those of you, how many are a repeat officer? Oh, so you've been through this before, and we know that the second half of the training is more of an iterative. It is based on experiential. So in the beginning, we were the talking heads. You were able to stand up, listen to presentations, learn about your role, what the expectations were, in addition to reading your manual, which I'm sure everybody has done. But the second half of the training is all about experiential. So what if you as officers within your clubs actually learned and experienced, and this is more of a sharing. So as I go through pieces of Lance's presentation and Lance's, I guess, concepts of what builds a championship club, we're going to pause in between all those steps and see, what are we doing in District 53? What are you doing within your club? Because remember, Toastmasters internationally is only as good as the club. So that's just the weakest link is the club. So how do we make sure that we as Toastmasters are allowing our clubs to thrive so that we who join the club and the reasons why we join the club are still valid? We all want to improve our skills. This is, in this day and age when job security is so weak, And when people are outsourced and downsized and jobs go away, the job doesn't go away, the people go away, and we get stuck with more and more work. So coming to that meeting is not a question of a luxury anymore. We truly are taking away time that we can't afford anymore, so we better make sure that the quality of that club is the best that it can be. So let's figure out how to do that. So we're going to define, Lance Miller defines championship as, we're going to find out what it is. We're going to look at the history. We're going to take you back a little bit in time of how Lance experienced his club to be the top 4, I believe, in the world. He cites 3 necessary components in order to do that. And then we're going to look at what are your next steps. What are you going to do today to make sure you are going to be one of those clubs that Lance will speak about. According to Lance Miller, championship is building champion speakers who have a voice and are advocates for their beliefs. But a lot of people say, not everybody joins Toastmasters to be a champion speaker. So what is champion speaker in that sense? Because let's face it, over the next 50 years, there's only going to be 50 world champion speakers. The probability that one of them is sitting in this room, I'm not going to say it's as bad as winning lotto, but it's not probable. Most of us are not designed or coming into Toastmasters to be the world champion speakers. Our goals are not quite that lofty. But what he does say is there are people who do something with their talents and actually make something happen. So they're the voice. So how is Toastmasters giving you your voice to be able to say and have what you believe and work that belief out into the rest of the world? Because we as Toastmasters make the world a better place. One person at a time, sometimes one speech at a time, depending on where our purpose and where our personal beliefs are. And we're going to learn that each club has a culture similar to us, and we are attracted to clubs that most meet our personal culture and beliefs, our value system. Just like most corporations, you have a shared value. You are actually attracted to clubs that represent more of your personal beliefs. So he says that there are 3 major components to being a good club, and that is communication. That seems to be pretty basic. The next is having high energy, and there's multiple kinds of energy. There's that positive energy and there's that negative energy. We are certainly advocating for that positive energy. We're going to take a look and discuss what does that look like. And then lastly, he said, Colonel Sanders' secret recipe. And I see a little bit of, what does Colonel Sanders have to do with that? And we'll find out that what he says about that is what Colonel Sanders' recipe for success was, and it has nothing to do with his ingredients that he puts on that over-fried chicken. But what his philosophy is, he's saying, you take the ordinary and do it extraordinarily well. You take this. We lost some files. We've lost the history.
People just slide before.
Yeah, we went back. Oh, okay. You have a very sensitive change. Okay, background of Lance Miller's club. Lance Miller started his club, the club started in 1989, and you will see that many of, I'm not going to look back, because I'm going to look up here, because that will give me a backache. And the club started when it opened, and it went up and down. How many clubs of yours go up and down like a yo-yo as far as membership? Because as we know in Toastmasters, membership attrition, normal attrition. For whatever reason normal is, people move, people retire, people get relocated in their business. It's anywhere from 30 to 40% on an annual basis. That's natural attrition. So is there any question why in a club that you have somebody that's called a VP of membership? Because that person should be looking out for increasing their members on a continual basis. Because if you just let stuff happen, those people are going to fluctuate in and out. So ideally, you want to have something that's doing more promotion and getting that influx to come in as quickly or at least more rapidly than people are leaving. So when Lance started the club in 1982, joined the club, I should say, in 1982, it went up again from 45 and it dropped down again. And most of the time, there were anywhere from 8 to 10 people coming to a meeting. I have been more or less in a club that's been the top amount of members in the club, anywhere from 8 to 10. Anybody have an 8 to 10 meeting? Yes, I see one of the fellow members are sitting right here near the front pew. It's frustrating because how much energy is really applied in that club when you only have 8 to 10 members coming? You get a lot of burnout because 8 to 10 people arriving at that meeting, you have a lot more roles that need to be handled in a meeting than 8 to 10. So what typically happens is those people get burned out and they get disinterested. And then 8 to 10 slowly drops off even into more. So if they have a choice between doing something or coming to a meeting, sometimes doing something happens before coming back to the meeting. So he decided there was a core group of them that sat down, because the only way change is going to happen, it's going to be deliberate. So he decided, with this core group of people, is this what we want our club to look like? And at that particular time, back in history, it was a ranking system. And this was actually before my time in Toastmasters, where you had a certain number of people could only be President's Distinguished. I know there might be some people here that go back before me and know exactly Joel up here might. So I'm not 100% sure of how that ranking system worked, but it was in place. So what they had decided to do was they wanted to be one of those top 10 clubs in the world. That's pretty lofty, because nowadays, almost any club in the entire world within Toastmasters can be President's Distinguished. That was not the case before. So this is what they set out to do. So how are they going to do that? So first of all, like anything, if you're going to incorporate change into something, what do you need?
Plan.
You need a plan, and what else do you need?
Passion.
Passion, help from each other, which is buy-in. So they took this thought process, brought it back to the club, and decided that they were going to work on being the #1 club in the world, or at least in one of those top 10. So then they decided, yes, Joel?
We had number 2, number 3 club in the world here. Don, you were never a member of Greater Hartford Toastmasters, were you?
No, I wasn't.
Okay, right. But you were governor when they were like in the very high. I think Ray Johnson was a member. He talked to someone who was in one of the top 3 clubs in the world here in Hartford.
So see that? It's possible. So you could be sitting in a club that can be recharged and get to that. So we can be President's Distinguished, but there's a certain amount of energy that's required. So they had decided that it requires 3 definite things in order to be that #1 club. What?
Arnie Grove is a very active member of Hartford Club, pushing for that.
And some of the, Ray Johnson certainly is here. I don't know, Marnie is usually here, but he's also usually in Dubai, so I don't think he's watching. Hard to think if they can't hear me.
Well, it'll sound better with that, put it that way.
Ask my husband. So he decided, the core group decided that there were 3 components that were really needed in order to build a #1 club. And that was communication, having energy, and then that Colonel Sanders' secret recipe, which is just taking that ordinary and doing something extraordinary with it. So doing your everyday things that you do in the meeting, but just doing it exceptionally well. And we'll walk through some of those. So it's communication. Now this seems like it's a pretty simple concept. But do we communicate effectively? He decided that communication could never be over-exaggerated, that you had to do it in excess just to stay even keel. And what does that communication look like? Do we talk to each other? How many people set up their meetings 3 and 4 weeks in advance? Okay, for those that have their hands raised, that set up their meetings 3 or 4 weeks in advance, do you talk to one another to make sure that the areas that they're responsible for are being planned and are ready to go, so when that meeting happens, everything's in place?
You do it through emails.
Through email, but that's communication. It doesn't matter. Sometimes it's a phone call, depending on how updated everybody is on technology. And sometimes technology doesn't work, so you have to resort to picking up the phone. But he felt the key ingredients. Sugan?
Yes. In order to create we put up a schedule almost 3 to 4 weeks in advance, so people will know as to what they're going to perform. At least what I've done, and I always ask them, tell me what you'll be here for that week. More importantly than anything else, I always ask them, tell me the weeks you won't be there, so I won't repeat it again. So that now I know, okay, this person, XYZ, is going to be there, it's not going to be there. So that it makes my life a little easier. Okay, now I can see, okay, this is the person who's not here, let me put this in. Actually, putting
The schedule, that takes a long time, at least an hour. It's not boom, 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 and done. So that takes some time, but it's all about let people know, hey, I'm here, I'm doing the schedule. Please let me know as to what your schedule for next 3 to 4 weeks. That's what I used to do anyway.
Absolutely. Excellent example, because what also happens is stuff happens during the week. People get sick. Sometimes people have something and they have to travel on business. So it's a good idea to be able to constantly check in with people to make sure that those roles that we're signed up for are being fulfilled. So of those people that raise their hand and are in clubs that do things advanced, how many people of those clubs were distinguished, select, or president's distinguished last year? For the ones that did it, yes. It makes a difference too. Those of you that don't do it in advance, you must do something good, or you must have some of the energy there that allow for maybe not doing it up front to still make you distinguished. But chances are those that do things in advance and follow up with communication are going to be more on track to be distinguished, select, or president's distinguished than those that seem to let this fall behind. So communication was one of those areas that they felt where you just could not underestimate how much communication is required. Okay, now, how many presidents do we have in this room? 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, ooh, quite a few. You are the CEO of your club. A lot of all the pressure of the club and the responsibilities of the club fall on your shoulders. So it is up to you to be the coordination of all the roles that are happening in the club. So it starts with setting up a club, your club, with a purpose. How many people as presidents, because remember, what starts the new year of Toastmasters? July 1st. Every single year you start fresh. It might be a continuation of building upon what was done the previous year, but each year you generally have a new slate of officers. So you should be gathering together and deciding what is your purpose and what are your goals for the year. How many people actually do that? Not many. Because let's face it, life gets in the way. Our home life, our jobs, it gets in the way. But it's important to recognize how are we working together, because you have a new team each year. So that new team is going to behave a little differently than the team you had the year before. You've got to get to know them. But more importantly, you need to understand Who are your members? Because it's the members that make up the purpose and the goals that your club is going to set out with. So what are their goals? Have you decided, and do you have knowledge about what personal goals that each one of those members expect to achieve? Do they want to have a CC? Do they want to have a CC and a CL? Or maybe you have more advanced members in the club and they're working on their advanced manuals and maybe they want to hit bronze or silver. Do you know what your members expect when they're coming into that club? Do you know, how many of you know your fellow members' goals? A few, which is good. How many people now also run their meetings that start and end on time? That's better. Like to see that population. Because one of the biggest areas of skills that we learn, because I know, as good of a company IBM was, I sat on many, many meetings, especially conference meetings, that never started on time, certainly never ended on time, and the agenda that we were supposed to follow got sidetracked often, too often than not. So we have an opportunity to learn what goes into having a quality meeting. And you as presidents and you as fellow officers are responsible for making that happen and allowing those people who signed up to be part of your club to make sure that they have one of those experiences, that when they come to that meeting, that they're getting nothing short of quality. And again, we talked about all the roles being fulfilled in advance so that we know exactly what to expect. And as Sugan pointed out, to call up people or email people and remind them of what role they were expected to play. And sometimes that takes a lot of phone calls. But everyone knowing their roles, and everyone, but more importantly, has read their manuals, not their CC manuals, but their officer manuals. How many people can honestly say they've sat down and read their manuals knowing what their role is? A few. I would say at least half, and that's a good sign. Because sometimes we forget. Or sometimes if we were an officer of one role, maybe it's a president, anything else seems less important, and we've observed throughout the course of the year the roles being done, maybe we think we don't really need to read them. But it is important because each one of those roles have specific deadlines that they're responsible for. So let's say, for instance, the secretary has a role of taking minutes at every meeting. Anybody secretaries here? A couple. Well, as a result, what do you do with those meetings? Those minutes of those meetings, what do you do with them?
Email them out to people.
You distribute them out. Sometimes, because as a nonprofit, it is usually you're responsible for having something of public record that you had a meeting and what went on at those meetings. But more importantly, you need to send those minutes out so that the people who were not able to attend, or maybe it's even the guests that have attended your club, you have given them an opportunity to see what they missed, to hopefully excite them to say, I'm going to make it to that next meeting because I don't want to miss out on a meeting that happens here. So part of the secretary's responsibility is to capture the records of the minutes, not only to post them in a book for record keeping, but also to be able to distribute them to entice the others to come back and make it to the next meeting. You have somebody that collects dues. When are dues due? Dues due. First. When do you start posting and getting people to start bringing their dues in?
February.
1 to 2 months.
Well, you have two times that dues are due. So if you're saying October 1st, yes,
October 1st.
October 1st, but when do you start soliciting for those people to get their dues in?
1 to 2 months beforehand.
1 to 2 months beforehand. How many people are procrastinators here? I will say I am. And I'll swear I work better under pressure. I have convinced myself of that. So it's almost a rush to be able to get things in at the last minute. You have too many people in Toastmasters because, again, they have other things on their plate. That if you send out a notice September 15th expecting to have the dues in before the deadline, the chances of you getting even 50% are nil. Because you are going to have a lot of stragglers. So the idea is you want to start a month to 2 months in advance. So by September 15th, you're only worrying about people like me. It happens. Yes.
If anybody needs a manual, you probably have lots of manuals, but if you need an officer manual, there's some extras over at the registration desk.
Good, good. So, yes.
Because because members don't usually know about the April 1st and the October 1st date, would it be less than ethical or less than moral to say, oh, these dues are actually due September 15th. You need to get them to me by September 15th.
You could do that.
Okay.
Some clubs, because we have, constantly looked at TI and say, when you really start thinking about the psychology of requesting dues twice a year, does that seem right? What message are you really sending them? You're basically saying that we're going to let you judge to see if we are adding value to your life on every 6 months. I mean, how many people join other things and paying 6 months dues versus a year?
Nothing.
Basically, what you should be telling your members are, we are worth it. Pay a year. What is the $72 plus whatever nominal thing that you're adding to, just to bolster up the treasury in your club so you can do little things with your club? $72 to me is not a big, hefty price. Why not collect it all up front?
October is going up in October.
Yeah, but I'm saying in general. So to me, why not collect it once? Then you don't have to worry, and people don't have to worry about, because by the time you're collecting it the next time, people are so absorbed with their tax returns and getting things in. They're busy. Some people are going on vacation. Not a lot of people go on vacation in fall. It's usually in the spring, so why not collect it? So to me, that should be changed to say, why not we collecting it on a yearly basis versus every 6 months? We're setting ourselves up for failure. And to me, it's a better story to say, we're worth it. Yes.
Unfortunately, the international site only lets you pay 6 months in advance. If we could change that.
But you can do that within the secretary. Yeah, John?
There's no reason you can't check 2 blocks that you're doing, starting September, starting in April. And then
You can, I think you can.
instead of just being $36, it's 72.
Yes. What?
I think that, sorry, there was someone behind me. Go ahead.
Go ahead. We're waiting.
To give advance notice of the timing of the dues payments, it is possible to publish an operating calendar at the beginning of each 6-month period. If the year starts July 1st, the president can publish a calendar saying July 1st, August 15th, the International Convention, September, start collecting the dues, October dues payment, then in November, the District 53 Conference. In other words, the operating calendar contains things that the club will do and things that will affect the club operations. You can give people advance notice that way, get a little pub for the district conference, and beat the drums forward a little bit when you publish the calendar, and then remind people as the year proceeds as to what's next.
Okay, and that's Don Logie, by the way, which is a past district governor. So I'm going to capture little things that what we can do is I'll make a note and send it to Sharon, some of the issues, and put a name attached to it, so hopefully, if you have questions, you can be routed to the person that might be able to help you, or someone in your club that's responsible for dues, yes.
Just a counterpoint to why not just do it annually? I'm part of a corporate club, and we have the opportunity to allow the company to pay for our members' dues. They will, and that's up to individual managers to be able to reimburse that. So we have that capability, but for community clubs or non-corporate clubs, there's a flip side to, hey, let's ask for it all up front. And that is for people on a limited income, people on low income, single parents. How can we make it less frightening for them to say, oh, we need 70 some odd dollars and we need it all up front? That can be daunting, and it can be the difference between, oh, 30 some odd dollars, I can do that, versus 70 some odd, I can't do that, it's way too much, and you discourage people before you even get them. So I think that having the 6 months, I think we should do both. Have the opportunity for both.
Absolutely, I totally understand. I've been in that situation before as a single parent. So yes, but I'm not saying that it shouldn't be optional, but right now it's 6 months generally. It's the one-off is the annual, but why not have it both so that the clubs that can get it all up front can?
Well, perhaps if you offered $1 or $2 discount, off of the club dues portion, there's a small incentive without seeming punitive to those who can't do the 1 year. You don't want to be, it's hard to balance. We want to give people incentive. I think because some people, if you just ask them to, they will. Give them the option, they will. If you give them $1 or $2 incentive, they're maybe even more likely to do it if they can. And hopefully it won't feel too onerous on those who can't do that. I understand where you're coming from.
Yeah. Yes.
So I counter the idea of paying annually. I have some student members in colleges. This would be a deterrent, it would be unaffordable to them. And also you will be able to scare new members away who wants to come on trial basis, saying I just want to see what you guys are doing. Maybe I like it, maybe I don't. There are a lot, the old members may know what they're already getting into, but the new members, you don't want to scare them away with paying everything up front.
I guess the bottom line here is, and they're all very, very valid points, there shouldn't be a one-size-fits-all. So it's whatever, again, every club has its own individual culture. So how they pay dues and whatever, that works for them as well. So it's across the gamut as far as the culture. So whatever works. But try it out. It doesn't necessarily have to be just on a 6-month basis. Try out the annual and see if it works. And if you want some education as far as some information on how you as a club can make that happen, we might have individuals like Don Logie and maybe John Bates back there that can help bring that together to say, how can I do that for my club? How did you do it? How can I do it in my club? Question?
Well, I was just going to, I think the gentleman touched on it, but by going annual, you're really creating that commitment of the members to be there every week and
Right.
get more excited about the club.
Absolutely. That's what I say. I mean, most people commit to any kind of club or process for at least a year. I know you're signing up, whether it's a magazine subscription or whatever, usually you're signing up for a year. So why not Toastmasters as well? And then finally, as far as the club is concerned, excuse me, don't bring personal issues to the club. So that your committee and you as a president should make sure that anything that's going on in your club, anything that is a little personality conflict, don't bring it. Save it for the executive committee or work one-on-one so that that doesn't get tainted into the flavor and the atmosphere of the meeting itself. So with that, we move on, and Lance talked about the executive committee. And some of this, because that president is part of the overall executive committee, we touched on a few of these points already, and that is every officer knows their role and when their key activities are due, and we just discussed that as far as dues are concerned. But what happens, and Joel is in my club here, what happens for me, and it took many, many years in Toastmasters to really understand the concept of executive committee, officers, because the club that I'm in, my home club, has always been so small that the executive committee were the members. So I never saw any line of demarcation between what was what. It was only when I became an area governor and I visited other clubs that I saw that everything wasn't the same. There were a lot of different things going on outside of my little club, and it was an eye-opener. So I really started understanding Toastmasters a little bit more, because now I had a broader perspective of what a Toastmaster club could look like. Not should look like, but could look like. And for me, being that I am the eternal optimist, I stayed in that club. Sometimes you would say, why do I want to stay there? I can move on and join a more dynamic club. Nah, I like a challenge. I really felt that I could bring some energy and change it. And how many years have I been there? 10, 11? How many do we have? 9, 10 members?
More than that. We made
I think we made 12.
We made select distinguished.
Yeah, we did, but you can make select distinguished with not having a lot of members. But the bottom line is stuff happens, and it depends on a lot of issues. But stick with it. I mean, as far as there's always that lovely challenge that we can grow it, we can grow it, we can grow it. But sometimes it doesn't always move in the direction that you'd like it to. But the important thing is, when you do have lower membership, this is the one area that it can get a little bit squirrely, is because ideally, you want to make sure that the people that you're putting in some of these roles are aligning with their interests, so that when they're in these roles, they're really working up to their full capacity. That the reason why they're choosing that particular role, because they're trying to grow a skill. When you have a low member club, and you really do need to just fulfill those roles, you're oftentimes putting people into them that's not necessarily their skill set, and they're not aligned to their interests. So what happens then, their passion and their desire to really excel in what they're trying to learn isn't always captured. So that's the only downside, because really you do want to make sure, as you're going back and looking at your members and saying, what do you want to accomplish in the club this year? What skill do you want to grow? How can you come out of your comfort zone a little bit and stretch a little further and really find out and place them in an officer role that would best allow them to do that? That's ideal, because then they're really putting their full heart and soul into something, and the club as a result benefits from that energy. So that's the dilemma of when you have a small member club and you really need to have something just filled. And you really also want to make sure, as you're going into elections, it's not, and it's always a joke, and I can't say that it probably happens in every single club. When it comes time to re-elect the officers, the one that's not at the meeting is usually the person that becomes the president. Not a good thing, not a good thing. It's funny, but it's not necessarily a good thing to do.
Read those minutes.
But it happens in every club to some degree. You know, the person that's out and you really need that extra name, that person gets to be an officer. So, but let's face it, how invested are they going to be in something that they really didn't want? Do we like it when our voice is not heard? Are we not signing up to be a Toastmaster, to be advocates for our own voice? So how does it feel when something is just pushed on you and you really don't want it? It's nice to be a team player, but That's why it's important. So as a VP of membership, as a VPPR, we're constantly doing things to bring membership in so that we have enough candidates who want to do the role, not who have to do the role. Do you have as much energy when you have to do something? How many people are parents here? Do your kids like to do everything? What's their energy level when they're doing something that they enjoy doing? What's their energy level when they have to do something? Nil. So are we any different? We're just in bigger and taller, older skin. But we don't like to be pushed and doing things we don't feel like doing. I know I don't. I get really, my hair gets up. I get bristly. I get a little bit more vocal. I have attitude. I do. Not pretty.
There goes your rep.
Okay, and then finally, members. Going back to the members, making sure that each of them have their personal goals. Anybody do moments of truth? Anybody? A few. And we have incentives, so there should be more hands going up because you can actually get paid to do members of truth, moments of truth. How many people actually ever, as a member, got surveyed? How many people?
Sorry? I didn't hear that.
How many people as members were surveyed when they came into the club? Not a lot. So most of you who are sitting in the club, along with people that you meet with every 2 weeks, they really don't know unless you've had a conversation with them. And maybe it's not across the spectrum of everyone. Maybe the 1 or 2 or 3 that you really connect with, they personally know what you want to accomplish. But does the club know? More importantly, does your VPE know? Everyone. Because as Lance Miller states, being successful is just mathematical. So you've got to take into consideration, we have any accountants, CPAs, people who love to work with numbers, bookkeepers, and there's enough of you, that it's all about numbers. So if you have 20 people in your club, and you have that each one of them wanting to earn a CC, a CL, within a certain period of time, then you've got to make sure that you've scheduled them to speak X amount of times. And so if you have those 20 people that are enthusiastic, because what you really don't want to happen too is that you don't want your club meetings to come in, and how many people have really good people that always have a hip pocket speech? Not necessarily a good thing. Because what you're doing is, those hip pocket speeches are basically saying that you're not having the people in that club either fulfilling their goals, or you haven't asked them and you're not pushing them and challenging them to work on their goals. And you're allowing these hip pocket speeches to occur. And it has kind of debilitating results as a result of that. Because what happens is, say you're coming in, you're new, and you're getting enough of these hip pocket speeches, but you're now personally working on your goal, and you're a new member, brand spanking new, had a fear of public speaking, have a fear of standing up there, didn't feel like you were really that capable of standing up, but within 5 speeches, you're better than everyone in that club. And why? Because the club isn't challenging everyone to work on their goals so that everyone as individuals are gradually getting better and better and better. So each time you come into that club, you're further challenged. Because although you're competing with yourself, you do want to see that you're aspiring to be a better speaker, and you might personally be comparing yourself to someone else. But what happens if you don't have anyone that you aspire to? Now, you might have a huge ego and decide you want to be the king of the mountain, and you want to always be recognized as the best speaker in that club. But that gets
tiring after a while and boring after a while. So
Depends on the personality.
it does depend, and styles are important, yes.
What's a hip pocket speech?
Ah, good question. Hip pocket speeches, you've got somebody coming into the meeting and you haven't been diligent about calling all those people up and ensuring that the people that signed up for that role are going to attend or are prepared. They might have signed up and decided, oh, I'm not ready. So you always have those one or two people in the club. I have a speech I can give. Where it really wasn't planned for, and they weren't really planning to give a speech, so that energy and all that preparation wasn't really there. And that's a hip pocket speech. So you've got a speech, so the meeting wasn't a total waste, but you really do need to practice. Anybody else have a question on that? So you want to make sure that BP, your goals are being tracked and reports are being read so that you know where you are at any given time. You know where each other is in that club at any given time, because it's constantly being told, whether as a report out in your executive committee, and it's that executive committee is strictly report out, not conversational. It's just maybe a half an hour meeting of just where everybody sits. But you as an individual, you know where you sit as a member, because somebody cares enough to want to know what you want to do. Yes?
Could you speak about the mathematical portion? Because I thought that was one of the really eye-opening parts of the presentation, where he said, if you have this many meetings a year and you have this many speaking slots, how can you fit everyone
And I think
in?
with Lance, good question, because with Lance, if he had 90 people in his club, the question is, how do you get everyone scheduled? And then he went back to say, well, a lot of those, 35 to 40 of those members don't necessarily come at every meeting, and some of those people, the meeting is so exciting that they sign up as members, but they don't always attend. Now, Lance Miller's meeting happened on a Saturday, and they were 3-hour meetings. So he had 6 speeches for everything. So if you have 45 people, what he's basically saying is, you need to make sure that if you have 6 speeches in any given meeting, how many meetings do you have to be able to say, I've got all 45 people of my membership that I can handle?
9, about 9 or so, 8 or 9.
So, and then if something happens, maybe it's having a speech-a-thon, maybe it's holding something to making sure that everyone has that opportunity to be able to speak. It's mathematical in the sense of, you have X amount of meetings every year, you have X amount of people that have to get through, because he also challenged everyone, as every club should be challenged, that if you're signing up to be a member of this club, you are signing up to earn an education award annually. Everyone earns a CC. And he said it got to be a little bit more challenging, those that signed up in April, and expected that CC by June 30th, but of course he gave slack, but that was the more comic portion of it.
I have a comment. My comment is involved with the fact that nothing has been mentioned about mentoring. And to me, this is probably one of the most important things that is available from all the people that are within your club.
Well, I
and
think
we do this. We mentor the new members, the new presidents, the new vice president, the membership committee, everybody. We mentor them, but we also mentor our people. And by doing this, we have pretty much like a one-on-one with people that want to be mentored. We don't force the mentorship program, but we tell them that we are available, and we do have people that are very good speakers that want the membership to mentor them. And there's about 5 of us that do the mentoring. And it is so valuable because it makes them feel like they have somebody that cares about them. And they want to come back, they want to do more speeches. And of course, I'm very verbal, so I love to, really. I love to tell them what a great job they did. I guess it's part of the fact that I was a teacher, but I like to promote this. And so I think that mentoring is probably one of the most important things, keeping the people on target.
So does he cover that? Absolutely, and that would probably come in under Colonel Sanders. Not just the energy, but doing ordinary things extraordinarily well. Because he talks about mentoring and everyone being, not everyone should be a mentor because it takes a certain personality and skill, capability, and desire to be a mentor. But he also talks about what happens to the seasoned Toastmaster? What value do they have? Because they've been through the program numerous times, and that's where also he talks about giving back, being a mentor, taking them through the program. Absolutely, he does not discard mentoring. He has that more in pieces of the energy as well as into the doing extraordinarily well. And he talks about contests, he talks about evaluations, and he talks about the mentoring piece of that, so excellent. So.
And we also have one other thing too. I don't know how many other people here belong to like a corporate club where they have the opportunity to use telepresence. But we had a wonderful club in Farmington, which I'm sure you remember. And that club basically dissolved. So what we have done now in Backtalkers, which is a corporate club for Bank of America, we have telepresence, and the club back in Farmington has grown fantastically. And now we have our club in East Hartford, their club in Farmington, but we are one club through the use of telepresence.
And we're using more. Toastmasters is recognizing, because as we come through the new revitalization program, they're recognizing some of the technology that's used in corporations, and why not use it within a Toastmasters club as well. So
that's why we're distinguished.
Yeah. Yes.
And just think about like when you're being a mentor, it's like when you're a teacher, whether you're a teacher or you're like you do a knowledge transition in your corporate setting, you actually learn the program, whatever you're teaching. You know it better after you teach it than when you just did it.
Yes. Absolutely. It's like anything else, when sometimes you think you've practiced your speech, but you have to say it out loud. You have to hear your own words, because other than that, it stays in your head. It's a lot different to actually talk it and hear it or tape yourself. So you're right, and teaching is allowing you to learn it better. I think that's why I also enjoy tour guiding.
If you're any kind of an officer or a district or area leader here in the district, then you actually know that Toastmasters is a District 53 better than you would if you was as a casual observer. It's something I think you'll speak the language, like you actually learn how to speak Spanish, better to speak it than if you just like tap and listen to it and read it out of the book, for example.
So how many people want to be district leaders next year?
Quick question about math. What is, 8 to 10 is probably too small of a really effective club, but what is the optimal number?
Well, how many people are needed to be in a charter club?
20.
Absolute 20. And Toastmasters came up with 20 as a number to be the ideal, that you're not burning people out, and you got to figure that the average then club should have anywhere from 12 to 15 members showing up at any given meeting. So 20 became that ideal number to say, if you're 20 of charter strength, then that's a good thing. So, and then it got to a point where if you became too big, then the idea of maybe you should be splitting off and creating 2 clubs, because then you're not allowing the opportunity to happen in that major big club as better as you can in the small. So gone.
Just one question. I'm not sure all these years I've been here, people haven't actually, someone has raised this question. Is there one, see for example, we have our meetings go for an hour, that's 4 hours, per month. For people who work night, who's having the more nights, it's like every other week, but it's 2 hours, it's 4. As a club, can you have like 3 hours per session, so probably have 6 hours a month? is there like the question I'm trying to say is there like X number of hours they can have, a particular club can have, or it's got to be like a limit?
As Toastmasters, he's asking, is there a limit on the hours in the club?
Yeah.
Whereas Lance's meeting was Saturday at 3 o'clock, 3 hours. Most corporate clubs, a lot of them are lunchtime, so it's an hour because people are expected to go back to work. Sometimes the community clubs at night can be anywhere from an hour and a half to 2 hours. Toastmasters will tell you the club is their own entity. So you as a club make that decision, and you, with the buy-in of your members, collectively agree on what is good for that particular club. Because if it's not done as a buy-in type of situation and people don't want a 3-hour meeting, the people who don't will eventually fade away.
And
So it's, again, it's communication.
In my division, one of the clubs does a half-hour meeting because they, that's something they have for lunch, so.
I know in a new one in UTC in Farmington that just won, they have every 2 weeks, but one is a noon time and the other one is at 4:45, so that they can accommodate the people that after work they just need to get home or they have too many meetings that they can't attend, and those that, so that they want to attend at lunchtime, and those that really aren't able to do it at lunchtime but are able to do it better after. So again, it's getting together and getting that buy-in from the members to say what works for us, because it's your culture. It's the members, it's the membership in your club. So I know I'm going to have to start moving a little bit. Any other questions that we might capture it going in the next?
I was leading thank you for mentioning about the mentorship. Because I was leading a mentorship program for our club and for a little while, and we were very active through, because especially particularly for larger clubs, that's even more important to maintain those advanced members that may say, well, what's in it for me? It's all going, so much priority is given to new members.
And mentorship, thank you, is very, very important, because let's face it, if you as a new member, don't you want to feel like somebody's taking you under their wing? If nothing, not even just for speaking, it's just understanding what's been going on in the club. What is this place that I'm coming to every 2 weeks? What is it like? So if somebody just even to be a spokesperson and take you through and educate you and bring you up to speed on what that club is like is important. Mentorship is going to be extremely vital in the new education program that's going to come out. Earliest it'll come out is in 2017, but it is huge. It is absolutely huge. It is a part that you are not going to be able to escape. But again, as is very important, not everyone makes a good mentor. How many people can think of people that a person that would be the last person in the world they would want to be mentored by? I can. So it's not just a paintbrush that everyone can be a mentor. So you really got to have, and there will be mentor training, because that's something that's very important. We did a program in IBM as far as we rolled out a mentoring program. You need to be educated. You need to have commitment, and you had contracts that you signed to make sure that you were serious about it, and you had advisors that oversaw it to make sure that it was working. So it's not something that's just fly by night and oh, I think I'll just take a view of it and then you forget about it. It's really a commitment, Joel.
On the subject of mentoring, but more on the subject of who wants to attend maybe more hours to get more out of Toastmasters, if maybe the club doesn't want to do it. I met a young man from New York City. He won his district contest after being in Toastmasters 6 months. When he joined Toastmasters, he immediately joined 4 clubs. His mentor was a member of 4 clubs. He said, you want to go to meetings twice a month or twice a week? If you want to get good, you'll go to meetings twice a week. So he joined 4 clubs, goes to meetings twice a week, and his mentor got him to do that. And like I said, he won the contest in 6 months. And so maybe as a mentor, maybe if you join other clubs, you can help other people. Hey, I have another club. I certainly had people to join. I have a person to join 2 of my clubs.
Well, one more question, because then we've got to move on.
Yeah, another thing I'd like to add about the mentorship. Our club has been distinguished from the start, from 11 years ago. I'm president distinguished for the past 8 years non-stop. Don't force anybody to be mentor for anybody. What we do in making us successful, we allocate some people on the list to pick from and you send this to those new mentees to pick anybody they feel comfortable with. Even though with that, some still feel cocky to go and ask for help. So let the chip fall, where they may. Don't force them, but you'll see a good result. That's all.
Good point. We're going to move now into energy. And we think of energy as usually two ends of the spectrum. There's positive energy and there's negative energy. And I'm sure we've all experienced both. And to me, your personal energy is all your thoughts, words, behavior, and your actions. And how energy plays up into the club is, you can have somebody that is wanting to be a president and they stand up in the club, great to have you, good to see you this evening, oh, we have a lot of guests here, thank you for coming. Energy that is just, that's energy, but it's energy that's really, really not high energy. Just because you have people gathering in a place does not create energy. You have to drive energy. So you really want to be enthusiastic about getting somebody up there and driving that positive energy about making it, you're excited to be there. Now the other portion of that energy is you can have clubs that are so bureaucratic and you have somebody that's in charge that has so many rules. Well, if you're late, you have to put $1 into the kitty, and if you have this, you have so many rules, you need a lawyer in there to separate all this. It's just not fun. So energy is really important in a club. And what does your club look like as far as energy is concerned? Styles are important. So making sure that the people that are in officer roles, people that are looking to have people do things and be collaborative, that their style is a collaborative and friendly and engaging nature, not somebody that you feel like you have to do. Coming is supposed to be fun. You're supposed to be in a friendly, safe environment, safe to be able to practice the skills so that you can learn. There's nothing worse than just being driven by somebody that you have to do. We don't need to do that. Again, survey for interests. And I personally think, and Lance also cites this, as dress is important. And sometimes I think, you get so comfortable in the club that you're in. Sometimes I think, and the venue is very important. And I've often looked at our venue. I hate our venue. It's not a secret, I hate it. Because I look at it and I say, if it takes me 10 minutes to figure out where can I find a background that's suitable for a picture, it's not a pretty environment. It matters. So picture somebody coming in for the very first time and they're looking around. What do they feel? We got used to it. We got used to it because it's an environment that we were able to find to collectively get our people together. But is it attracting a business-like person to come in and feel that it's setting a professional tone? Very important. Lance also believes that dress is important. Now, he met on a Saturday, and could people virtually come in t-shirts and sandals and shorts? Absolutely, it's a day off. No. Khakis, a pair of dress pants, pair of shirts, something to look professional. Some of our seasoned people, each time they do a presentation, they put a suit on because they dress the part, they want to feel, you just feel more confident when you're dressed more professionally. You just do. So set the tone, set your club up. Are you in a meeting room that only has 10 chairs? How are you going to grow? If the people coming in and they're sandwiched in and you don't really have enough space, they're not going to feel like you're ready for growth, that they're going to be able to attend because they're taking up too much space. So find a venue also that allows you to expand and have that growth that you desire. So sometimes dress, and my husband, well, what about the person that, everybody is not a corporate person, they are blue-collar workers, but it doesn't mean that you have to come like a slob. We all want to look presentable. We can certainly look presentable. It doesn't necessarily have to be in a suit and a tie, but we can look professional, and we consequently carry ourselves more professionally when we look that way. Again, and I think the important thing for me as far as the we versus me, what are you in Toastmasters for, your club? Are you just joined that club? Are you just concerned about what you're going to get from it? Or are you, and this takes on the mentoring aspect of it, or do you care about your fellow members? Have you gotten to know them enough to know that you want them to succeed? So if you are a club that has more people in it that are more concerned about what am I getting from it versus what are we getting as a result of being a team and working together, then that tells you and that speaks volumes. You want a club that cares about their fellow members and not just in it for themselves and what they are going to achieve. We can, as individuals, help an individual achieve something. Maybe we spend extra attention on someone because they have a personal goal and we're invested and anxious to see them see that. But it doesn't mean everyone else is forgotten. It's sometimes we tag team and we alternate to see who might be the key person at any individual time if somebody has a lofty goal to accomplish. But everyone should be looking out for each other. And that's the culture of a club. The next is, and the last point is the Colonel Sanders, which is saying, how do we do ordinary things? How do we, just as members, just take it one notch and do it extraordinarily well? And that is just something that I thought was pretty. It's just saying sometimes the most extraordinary things could be made extraordinary simply by doing them with the right people. And that is why that we versus me is so key. Make the meetings meaningful. Lance talks a lot about it's not a meeting, it's an event. So plan it as an event. If somebody didn't show up for an event, do you stop the event? No. The event goes on and you figure it out on the fly so that you don't lose a beat. So what you want to do is maybe look at your whole year and decide what are your themes and make everything that's happening in that meeting surrounded by that theme. Your table topics, your everything else. Make it fun. Again, the venues are critical, and evaluations. He spent a lot of time on evaluations and the idea of contests. Evaluations should be done with care and done in a sequential manner. Sometimes we do a whole body scan on somebody. They can be getting up there for their icebreaker speech, and we're busy talking about vocal variety, and they walked around, and gestures, and we should have just applauded them for getting out of their seat and standing up in front of a room. So, and then the next time, when it's organize your speech, just stick with going back to the fact that they got up, they're gaining confidence by getting up and standing in front of that audience, and now looking at the structure of their presentation. We also want to make sure that we're giving somebody the benefit of showing them what they do well. We are so focused in our society to figure out what we have to improve on, or as far as what holes and gaps we have, we don't always appreciate what we bring to the table. So maybe somebody has an extraordinary sense of presence when they're up there and they just have stage presence that is so engaging. Tell them that. They might not realize that. They might not realize that they bring that gift to the table. Tell them that, because you want them to keep that as they keep getting up in front. Maybe they just articulate really well. How they enunciate words is just so beautiful. Tell them that. And then, of course, you always want to look at the objectives of the manual and make sure that you're addressing their evaluation just on those objectives. And 1 or 2 is sufficient. You don't need to knock them down and tell them every little nitpicky thing that they didn't do right. Tell them 2 things that if they did it and focused on those 2 things or 1 thing in particular, that it would make the next speech even more beautiful. That's why you want to do. The evaluation should not be overly critical. We do not need to be chastised. We already had a fear of getting up there. And then conduct contests. How many people in the clubs go out for contests? Fantastic to see that many hands. That is a way for each one to get out of their comfort zone and challenge the club and the people to see things from a bigger picture. It also is a great way to promote your club, to have contests and bring guests and people in to be able to see what a contest is like. It's a great event to get out of. You get so complacent and so comfortable presenting in front of the same people because they're so kind and they're so forgiving. Try it with a new audience. We are equally good Toastmasters. We will not slaughter you, but it gives you a sense of a new audience. It gives you a sense of trying something and stepping a little bit further out into your comfort zone. Contests are vital, not only for growing your club, but also challenging the members in your club. So what are your next steps? The bottom line, what Lance says is use the Toastmaster program. It works. It has objectives, it's sequential, they're building blocks to help you grow your skills. And as he says, for how many countries are we in now? 126? 126, over 350 or 17,000 members. What is universal is everybody has a fear of speaking. We all have that in common. We're all working on that particular skill. Every single club, people are in there working on that skill. Biggest thing is you need to make the decision. Not only you as individuals, but you as a club, that you are willing to succeed. Sharon, your district director, has set up incentives that, oh my goodness gracious, even if you weren't motivated, you should be motivated to do all the things that you should be doing anyway. And guess what? She's paying you for it. That's an incentive. That's a motivation. You're getting something, as that's like almost having then that little record to say, I achieved that. You're getting something tangible in your hand and your club is benefiting from, but you need to do it together. As an individual, you can't do it alone. You've got to work collaboratively together. And again, we are only good in Toastmasters as the weakest club. It's us who make the difference. It's us. We, every individual in that club, needs not to be a passive member. They need to be an active member. An active member is going to make the district successful. But it's not the district that you need to be successful. It's you that are sitting in a club. It's your club that needs to be successful. And the people that are able to make it, Sharon can't make your club successful. Richard can't make your club successful. Tom can't make yours. I can't make your club successful. You do. It's you. It's what you bring to that club. It's your energy. It's how well you communicate. Those Toastmasters that are seasoned Toastmasters, you have tons of active past district governors in your district and maybe in your club. Tapping onto them, making sure they're playing a vital role in bringing people up to speed on things. And just like in anything else, you've got the seasoned Toastmasters have to learn from the younger ones, because the new members coming up are bringing a new energy and new ideas that really shouldn't be lost. And we've got to learn from them. For those people that have been Toastmasters for 25 years, we still have something to learn. It's changing. Why do you think Toastmasters is changing the education program? We've got to grow. We've got to stay up with the times. We are going to be more merging with corporations that make more sense. We will become an intricate part of skills development in corporations because our program, which is relatively inexpensive, will be far more of a match for their employees to gain skills. And it's something that they can practice while they're at work. It's something that can be measured. You as communities that volunteer to do different things, you can be better advocates for that particular charity that you're working for if you have a better voice, if you can speak and be able to articulate the purpose and share the beliefs that you believe in. We can change the world one person at a time. And look how many people we have in our universal club called Toastmasters International. We are amazing. So it's you, it's us, that put the energy into the meeting. So the hallmark of Toastmasters, they say, is improvement. But again, it starts with your club. It's not the district moving across and making your club good. You make the district successful. But more importantly, you make it successful because you are putting your personal investment into the club. How many people here are sitting here actually mentors?
What?
Mentors. How many people sitting here are actually mentors? Mentors. How many more people in your club could be mentors? They could be, but are not. The bottom line, sometimes we sit back and we see people that would be so good at something, but they're not stepping forward. How oftentimes do you step forward? We have aggressive people, but then we have people that like to be invited. Just like members that might come to a meeting and then don't come back the next time. Do we call them?
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Some people don't. They might feel that they weren't welcome or it just wasn't a match, then they had enough members and they really didn't matter if that person came back again. Communicate. Call them. Look at past people that came in, if you have a guest book, that came out in the past, and invite them again. Lance spoke of a person who finally joined after 3 years ago, the person had attended the meeting. And do you know why? Because she had a baby. But now she was ready to come back. How many on your membership list, guests, could be in that shoe but need to be invited? Call them. I see this district being President's Distinguished because you sitting in these chairs are going to be so pumped with energy, you're going to go back and make your club a more vibrant club. Thank you.
But before you leave, normally we give certificates to our presenters, but this year we have a You Rock program. So our You Rock award is going to give to you. It's a little $2 Dunkin' Donuts card for you to get a coffee and think about District 53 as we say thank you.
Thank you.
All right. Well, before they go up in price, then you may have to